So, let's go ahead and jump into that first topic. I'm going to go ahead and say there's a content warning on this one. If you can't handle the idea of children dying, then this may not be the video for you. And if you also have a personal issue with stories related to QAnon, then this is also not the video for you. But if you can stomach both of those things in the same video, then I think this might actually be... it's not a happy topic, but we're going to have that one little dose of happiness, a tiny bit of serotonin, before we get into the episode itself. So, from Love Raven, they said this is their first time drawing with a brush pen, and I think it worked out very well for the first try. I think it did too, even though those are cursed words that I am not allowed to mutter, else they cause wars. But, despite that, and I may have actually shown these fan arts already, I'm not 100% certain, but in case I have, then you guys are seeing them twice. Sucks to be you. The next one we have is from Ryan Hunter, Horse Suris from the game Horse Haven. This is cursed. This is cursed imagery. This is very cursed imagery. And I'm just going to accept that it's cursed imagery, and I'm going to move on with my life. As always, thank you all for your fan art submissions, and if you ever want to have your fan art shown on the channel, the best way to do so is dropping it into the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, the title of this article should already be enough to tell you about what we are getting into. California dad killed his kids over QAnon serpent DNA conspiracy theories. Allegedly, mind. This is allegedly, but I did give you all the content warning, so we're going to get into this. While this may not be the most recent news of all time, this is, I mean, it was still like two weeks ago. I want to cover this because I think, like with the last time we covered QAnon stories, people who felt isolated from their parents because of QAnon, I think that stories like this, despite how disgusting the information is, it gives us an idea of why we should be trying to convince people who do believe in QAnon to maybe stop. Like, get yourself as informed as possible and try to change these people's minds. Because when you don't, this isn't when you don't, but when their minds are not changed, this is what happens. I don't want Starlight Carnival playing. I don't. I guess Scrap Brain Zone is fine. It's not the worst thing in the world. But yeah, no, this is absolutely fucking terrible, and we're going to get into the story itself here. Oh, why is the left side of the Yahoo page a clickable link? That's silly. All right. So, a California surfing school owner who was charged with killing his 2 children in Mexico is a follower of QAnon and Illuminati conspiracy theories. Now, these two things, based on this alone, obviously you can read a little bit of ahead, but based on this alone, you would think that these things aren't connected. They don't have to be connected based on this sentence at its, on its surface. It's the second part of the sentence that brings it full circle, though. He apparently thought that his children were going to grow into monsters, so he had to kill them. This is what federal officials allege Matthew Taylor Coleman did. Dude was 40. He got charged Wednesday, 2 weeks ago, with foreign murder of U.S. nationals in connection with the death of his 2-year-old son and 10-month-old daughter. According to United States Attorney's Office for Central District of California, the authorities said that Coleman confessed to the killings and told the FBI that he used a spear fishing gun to stab them. Now, I want to know, how far down the rabbit hole do you have to be to start killing your kids? Because of, let's go ahead and just put what QAnon really is into perspective. A handful of idiots on the internet convincing you of bullshit things that cannot be evidenced. The criminal complaint alleges that he told the FBI that he killed his children because he believed they were going to grow into monsters, and that conspiracy theories led him to believe that his wife had passed down serpent DNA to the children. Coleman's wife, identified only by her initials, though of course, given that his name is Matthew Taylor Coleman, I mean, it would be very easy to find that information. Coleman's wife contacted Santa Barbara police after her husband had taken the kids out on Saturday, but didn't tell her where they were going. She grew concerned after he failed to respond to her messages, and knowing that her husband didn't have a car seat with him, she called the police. So, imagine being in the shoes of this mother. Imagine that for a second. You are the wife of 2 children who are less than 3 years old each. They don't even have 3 years combined between the two of them. And your husband just vacates with the kids. He doesn't tell you where you're going. He doesn't bring the necessary equipment to take care of the children. He just goes. And then, of course, later you find out that he went all the way down to another country. But just think about that for a second. How would you feel as this woman? How would you feel as this wife and mother? What ultimately passes through your mind? I know for me, this would induce panic. So, of course, she called the police, tried to get them involved. A missing persons report was filed Sunday, so 3 days before everything went down, and officers asked her to use Apple's Find My iPhone feature to see whether she could find Coleman. The program showed his last known location was in Rosarito, Mexico. So let's go ahead. I am not great at geography, so let's go ahead and see where that is in relation. Okay. So Rosarito in Mexico, you apparently can get to it very easily from California. It is literally, like, if you're in Southern... I don't care that the website uses cookies. I love cookies. Fuck off. So if you're in Southern California, Rosarito's right here. Like, right here on that border. You just cross the border, you're right there. So this is not much of a drive. But it's enough drive to get over the border for another country. Police alerted the FBI to the investigation as it became a case of suspected parental kidnapping. It was. Coleman was detained Monday after an inspection by Border Protection agents of his van upon his re-entry into the United States, where the agents didn't see his children and found blood in the vehicle. That is absolutely fucking ominous. That's the kind of stuff that you see in horror movies, where, like, a person leaves with your children or with someone you care about, and they come back and there's just traces of blood in their vehicle, but your loved one is no longer there. That's psychological horror shit. But this isn't from a movie. This isn't a creepypasta. This is real shit that really happened to a real family 2 weeks ago. The complaint alleges that Coleman confessed to the killings upon being interviewed Monday. He gave the authorities the location of the murder weapon and the discarded bloody clothing. He also identified 2 bodies recovered by the Mexican authorities as those of his children. A judge ordered that Coleman be held without bond Wednesday and scheduled his arraignment for August 31st, so that's 5 days from now at time of recording this video. According to the complaint, Coleman said that he knew what he did was wrong, but he said that it was the only course of action that could save the world. Okay. I really wish I could frown on this model again. I don't know why I can't frown on this model anymore. I can only do this stupid Owo face all the time now, perpetually, to show my disdain. Don't know why that's changed. Upsetty. But think about it for a second. How divorced from reality? I want to know, like, in the chat, in the comment section, wherever you happen to be, how divorced from reality must you be for you to kill your children because you think it will save the world? You, at that point, truly must believe that you are the protagonist of a Hollywood movie, or a comic book, or literally a video game, anything. It doesn't matter. You think you're the main character at that point. Because you're willing to go ahead and just annihilate innocent life to save the world. That dude's not only divorced from reality, he will definitely be divorced from his wife when he's done. The serpent DNA is likely a reference to the lizard people conspiracy theory, which falsely purports that reptilian aliens secretly run the world and have taken over important positions in government, banking, and Hollywood. Now, if you actually take the lizard people conspiracy theory and divorce the lizard part of it, it ends up just being anti-Semitic. Like, it just becomes Jews run the government. That's what that fucking conspiracy theory boils down to. It's really fucking awkward. But the complaint says that Coleman told authorities that he learned about serpent DNA through QAnon and Illuminati conspiracy theories. And even though the lizard people conspiracy predates both by several decades. So, okay. The lizard people conspiracy theory does predate at least QAnon. Illuminati and the Bilderberg stuff, that might be entwined. I don't know the entire chronology of every conspiracy theory. But I'm just going to say right now, for the person who wrote this article here, every conspiracy theory that is wrapped up in QAnon is it doesn't matter that it came before QAnon. QAnon is like the mother of conspiracy theories. It is every old conspiracy and the new conspiracy theories all wrapped up into a giant blanket that says the Democrats are vampires sucking blood from kids. Yeah, David Icke took too many soccer balls to the head and then believed that the lizard people are real. We should actually cover his book sometime on stream, shouldn't we? The believers in this conspiracy theory they've melded together over the last several years because conspiracy theory influencers and algorithms on social media frequently lumped the theories together. Well, yeah, and like over time, QAnon as a conspiracy theory just adopted everything. Like Donald Trump trying to stop the evil Democratic lizard people from sucking the blood from your children, mixed in with the fucking saving the world from alien invasions and shit. Like, it is poorly written Hollywood movie stuff, but it is also, like I said, all conspiracy theories wrapped up into a giant conspiracy burrito. Except this is the kind of burrito that the guy at Chipotle makes, and instead of putting the layers on correctly so that every single time you have a bite, there's a nice, like, mixture of all the ingredients. No, the QAnon conspiracy is a burrito that is made where, like, the front inch of the burrito has your sour cream, and the next inch of your burrito has your meat, and the next inch of your burrito has your lettuce, and then the next inch has your rice, and so on and so forth. It becomes a completely unpalatable burrito, but the people who ordered the burrito, who ate the bullshit of these claims, they will swear up and down that it is the best burrito they've ever tasted, despite them not being able to understand why the burrito was constructed in such a fucking haphazard fashion. Says QAnon. So that's literally how you make burritos. Literally, Jacob, I think you're a lizard person. I think you might actually be a lizard person. Never construct a burrito for me. Ever. That is... No. No. You are one of the aliens. You are trying to probe our buttholes. It goes on to say that QAnon is a more recent conspiracy theory premised on the belief that a similar global cabal at the top of the US government is murdering and eating children, and that Donald Trump was quietly working to defeat them during his time in office. Anthony Quinn Warner, who bombed his own RV outside an AT&T building in Nashville, Tennessee on Christmas Day, claimed that lizard people were taking over Hollywood and the United States government. Warner died, and 3 other people were injured. Now, that's a separate story for a separate day that we might end up covering. We've got that right here. We've got that one right here, but that's from December in 2020. That's a reference to an older story. But yeah, no, this is fucking disgusting. I cannot fathom, just as somebody who is only a parent to pets, right? I'm a fur dad. Not in that I'm a furry, but in that I have 5 cats, 2 dogs, a bunny. I cannot imagine doing anything like this to my pets, let alone my flesh and blood children. Let alone, a human being. I don't know how to feel about this other than enraged. But at the same time, strangely impotent. Because, what do you do here? What could have changed this person's mind? This is a thing that we really need to be focusing on. As much as we want to just mock QAnoners, as much as we want to just poke fun at them for believing in their crazy, baseless conspiracy theories, this is what happens when they believe these things for too long. When nothing changes in their mentality over the long course of time, they just do this. They do things like kill their children. Because when you believe enough baseless claims, it doesn't take much for you to believe a similarly baseless claim that your children are going to, fuck up the world, right? And this story is all over the news. This story is in CBS. This story is over on The Independent, The Daily Beast. This story is just... It's moving everywhere. There's another article on this story that I want to read real quick. I want to know what is going on here. Okay? So this one's from People. Matthew Coleman's wife wants to meet with him and get answers about children's alleged QAnon-inspired murders. So let's go ahead and listen. This is a true crime section on People. We're going to go ahead and get the setup to play and take a listen in real quick.
People around him were thinking, gee, some of these things that he believes are kind of strange. But nobody thought, is he going to kill his kids? That was never on anybody's radar.
According to this 10-page document, Matthew Coleman, the man who appeared to be the perfect husband to wife Abby and father to 2-year-old Khalil and 10-month-old Roxy, believed some far-fetched theories.
Matthew Coleman told the FBI agent that he was motivated by the conspiracy theories of QAnon, which is, a far-right conspiracy theory that has all sorts of different parts of it. But the part that he was really focused on was the idea that there were these reptilian, serpent-like people who were shapeshifters who pretended to be normal people like you and I. What he said was that his wife had this serpent DNA and had passed it along to his kids. So the only way that he could save the world was to kill his 2 children.
People senior writer Steve Helling spoke with Coleman's friends who were still in disbelief that the 40-year-old California surf instructor, who was religious and boasted on social media about his family devotion, could snatch his 2 young children and drive them over the U.S. border.
All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and say right now, him being religious and devoted to family, that does not suddenly mean that he is not going to commit monstrous acts. Some of the most heinous monsters who have ever existed in human society have been disproportionately religious. Religiosity does not make you a good person. It does not make you a bad person. So anybody who thinks that you can take somebody's religiosity or lack thereof and use that to determine whether or not you're dealing with a good people, you are using a very loose, very terrible criterion. Man of God does not and has not and will never create a good person on its own. Just as many atrocities have been done in the name of self-servingness as has been done in the name of deities. Why do they always choose happy photos for cases like this? I don't know. I don't know.
For something so nefarious.
At first, Abby wasn't that concerned because she thought maybe he was going to get extra supplies, something for the camping trip. You know, they hadn't had an argument, is what she told cops. There was no sign of a problem. He just drove off with the kids. So she kept getting things ready, and then a little while later, she's thinking, wow, they've been gone a long time. The next morning, she noticed there are the car seats that the kids should have been in. They've been gone all night, and then she's starting to get worried. And so then the cops come, and she officially declares them missing.
Authorities say Coleman drove the children to Rosarita, Mexico, and checked into a hotel on Saturday, August 7th. Early Monday morning, he took them to a farm and killed them with a spear-fishing gun. A farmer discovered the bodies shortly after. Authorities arrested Coleman at the U.S. border.
And he did tell the FBI agent that he knew what he was doing was wrong, but he was doing it for the greater good, you know, to save this world.
Dr. Zeev Cohen, a forensic psychiatrist, has not examined Coleman, but treats ex-QAnon followers.
It's really challenging to talk to someone who's become wrapped up in a conspiracy theory because their mind is so wrapped up in conspiratorial thinking that when you try to reason with them, they might think that you're part of the conspiracy. It might make them paranoid. It might make them angry. It might.
So this is true. There's a conversation I've had in my comment section recently, and I'm not going to be super specific about it because there's no point. But there's a frame of mind that you get into when you get super heavy into conspiracy theory thinking, where every ounce of everything, everything becomes about the conspiracy. Your friends that are trying to change your mind, they're part of the conspiracy. An example of this. Back when I was in high school and I was into Zeitgeist and Alex Jones and a lot of the like Illuminati conspiracy stuff, Bilderberg Group, stuff like that, a lot of conversations with a few of my friends, they ended up being conversations explicitly about how we needed to get a bunker, we needed to get off the grid. If we went out to go get food, I didn't have a car, so we would go out and walk to like the local Sonic or something, which was about a 3-mile walk. But when we would do that, if a car passed us more than once, we started to get really paranoid, thinking that like government agents were trying to track us down. And then it didn't help that I had a friend who like legitimately believed that government agents had tried contacting him multiple times. Everything becomes about it. Everything becomes part of this conspiracy. You're constantly, your friend group is getting smaller because you're talking with people who exclusively believe these things, and then you end up isolating people who don't believe these things. When you start trying to bring that information up to your friends and family, if they start going, you know, this all sounds like a giant thing of bullshit, you start isolating them because, man, they're not real believers. They don't believe. They don't know. They don't believe. They're not one of the real ones like me and these people that I'm slowly, reinforcing into my local echo chamber. And that echo chamber gets smaller and smaller, but your avenues, your avenues for exploring the conspiracy theory get larger and larger. You see, as your personal echo chamber gets smaller, your online echo chamber gets bigger. And it creates this thing where, like, your real-life friends, your real-life compatriots, these people who have been important to you for your entire life, their importance starts to diminish. But random-ass people who you do not know online, who may or may not have your best interests at heart, they become the more important ones in your life. Now, I'm not trying to discount online friends. Most of my friends are online. But what I'm saying is, when you do this, you get sucked into these forums, into these discords, into these groups where you identify people not by whether or not you can truly relate with them, but by whether or not they believe the conspiracy theory like you do, whether or not they are a true believer. So your local echo chamber, your geographical echo chamber, it shrinks. The people who know you as a person shrink, but the people who know you as part of the group, that group increases. That group gets bigger. And that's what's dangerous, is you feel like your friend group is expanding, and you feel like you're shedding off the people who don't matter. That is a thing that has been true for almost every major conspiracy theory that carries the same trappings as Loose Change, as QAnon, as the Illuminati Bilderberg group stuff. All of those things have those same trappings, where you shed off important people in your lives, and then you start grafting onto people who don't care about you. They really don't. They care about you as a believer, but mind you, the minute that you stop being a believer, the minute you stop agreeing with the larger narrative of those conspiracy theories, they start to just shed you too. You become one of the people shedded away. And unfortunately, at this point, you've probably already pissed so many of your personal relationships down the line that the only groups you have left are these conspiracy theory-related groups. This is why even when we get people to stop believing in the flat Earth, they still believe in things like geocentrism. Because eventually, the majority of the people that they're willing to work with, that they're willing to hang around, are people associated with these groups or that carry those trappings, who are willing to believe non-evidenced claims like they are. Also, Pass the Screamer, thank you very much, or Pass the Creamer, thank you very much for the follow.
Might make them, block you out of their life.
It was a very dark descent for him, and he's somebody that any of us could have known. So that's always going to be a fascinating story.
That's always going to be the case, too. It is, I'm sorry, monsters. Because that's what this man is. This man is a monster. I'm sorry, you kill your children. That is, you deserve the title. Monsters rarely are born because of comic book villain level terrestrial threats. Monsters are born in your own backyard. Monsters are born out of your neighbors. And especially with the advent of the online world that we live in now, it is very easy for monsters like this to find like-minded individuals. Now, there's a more interesting part of this story that I want to talk about real quick. I want to know, not the thoughts of the father who believed that he should kill his children. Those thoughts are... they are important, but they are less consequential to me than this other category of information. As heartless as that might sound, I want to know, in what way was he convinced? Because what he thinks convinced him, what he thinks moved him down that hole, I'm not going to believe at this point. He was deluded enough to kill his children. That information will largely be inconsequential to me. I want to know the actual conversations that happened between him and other conspiracy theory believers and piece that together myself at some point, if that information ever becomes available. I want to know the things that were said to a 40-year-old adult that caused him to believe that he needed to kill his children. Because it is in that information, it is in the culmination of those conversations that we find how to convince people not to engage in these disproportionately heinous acts. What exists in the father's mind right now might not lead us down to accurate information. But the actual conversations that he engaged in, those are the things, at least right now, that I would want to explore. Now, after 5 or 10 years of maybe therapy, psychological evaluation, maybe at that point, that conversation with the father will become of consequence. Because at that point, he'll have at least enough self-awareness, I would hope, to be able to accurately answer those questions. But right now, I don't think he does. So right now, I want just the raw facts, divorced entirely from his personal experiences here. But I guess at that point, I need to throw it down to you. What do you think? What can you speculate on what might have caused this for this individual? What? Because there's a far cry from serpents have infected the government to serpents have infected my wife, infecting my children. There's a leap. There's a logical leap there. They're both bullshit claims, but there's a leap that happens. When do you think that leap happens? Where do you think that information gets bridged? Where do you think that is? I want to know in the comment section. I want to know in the chat. What are your thoughts? I know this has been a more somber episode. I know this has been a triggering episode for a lot of people, but I do want to know what your thoughts are. If you enjoyed this content, or if you found it to be of use in any way, shape, or form, then please consider hitting the like button, subscribing over on YouTube if you haven't already, and following over on Twitch if you haven't already. If you want to support my channel and what I do, there are ways to do so in the description down below. With all that said, everyone, as always, insert end of video tagline here.